everybody, it's Kenny K here again with another horror movie, this time a horror comedy from 1984. Um, Bloodbath at the House of Death. Now, this movie actually is at moments kind of creepy, and it's a horror comedy, folk horror. So, let's say like something like a legendary horror of the house on haunted hill, something like that, you know, and with a lot of satire in between, but not so much that it, that it completely that it overshadows the horror component. So um, I thought it was an equal 50-50 because you get a lot of gore. And you have to remember 1984. I saw Tucker and Dale versus Evil, gory. I saw Happy Birthday to Me, gory. Gory, I mean blood. But I also saw the first horror comedy ever, Student Bodies, not a drop of blood. Wacko, Not a Drop of Blood was even not a good movie, and something with a cheerleader movie, but also not with a drop of blood, also with a slasher killer. This though is about a house, yeah, called Death, House of the Dead, and the movie starts out by these you have these monks, and they are all rushing the mansion, and apparently they killed about 18 people that night. They start to, I mean, like, seriously, like, slash throats, and blood spatters, an axe in the head, a spear to the belly, shotgunning multiple people in a bed, and there's this one lady who pulls her boobs out. You want it, man. You want it, man. Yeah. He just cuts off her boob. I'm really shitting. So it's pretty gory, but you got these silly things in between. Like, for example, before they get to the mansion, the guy is watching, and he lets the branch loose, and fuck in his shit in his face. So these little silly moments. The actors that I only know in this movie is Vincent Price, and I think it's one of his last movies. Vincent Price being the man of hammer horror. Hammer horror with usually with haunted houses, Dracula, the mummies. Usually he worked with Peter Cushing. Peter Cushing as Admiral Grand Moff Tarkin from Star Wars, Christopher Lee from Lord of Rings, Saruman. He worked usually with those guys, and I think this was his last role. Now, for a movie, a horror comedy from 1984, it's pretty bloody and gory, but it's also funny at the same time. You also got a guy named Kenny Everett. Never heard of him. He's apparently, because it's a movie that takes place in Britain. He's a national legend there apparently, but I don't know him. Now what happens is 9 or 10 years so later, they go back with a crew of paranormal investigators. Kenny Everett's character, Dr. Lucas Mandeville, with his assistant Barbara. Not sure if it's his assistant or not, because there is a moment in the movie that they have sex, but he doesn't know it. For example, he has this complete metal leg and limping. And there's this moment where he hates that people make fun of him, and he's starting in this turret. he has this English accent, but when he starts to be angry, he has this the Germans accent, the Germans accent, you know, like the British television show Allo Allo, the, the Germans are coming, you know, that kind of accent, and then meanwhile, while he's just tirading, he's choking Barbara out, and then we see him in bed, and now I have to prove myself again, and then she's beside him, uh, because I am that good as a doctor. Then she's beside him smoking a cigarette. You're not that good, baby. it's so so she also at some point gets molested first, but then she likes it by a ghost. Almost in the same style. If you saw Scary Movie 2, with the group of people that go to this mansion, and you've got this one, I don't know the actress her name, but she gets fucked by the ghost, and then she gets in love by the ghost, but the ghost got crabs from her and things like that, and he wants to get the fuck out of her way. It was just a hookup. I was just horny, he said. You know, she has one of those ghosts too, Barbara. Now you have, of course, a few other members of the team. You've got, let's see, you've got Elliot and Stefan, a gay couple. But weird gay. Like, yes, I'm reading the article, and then starting to caress his ear, it's so weird, awkward, weird. And then you've got the, I think that's the weird, the Deborah. Yeah, I think that's the weird one. There's this weird paranormal investigator, and for some reason she was, at some point in the movie, she has a really abusive mother, but the mother has this hood on, like like it looks like a camp with a cross on. It's weird. It's like the tower of a church, but in a in a hat, so big, and she gets whipped, and she has to say all these things, and then at some point, like I said, it gets gory. She has these carry-like abilities, because I believe that there are a few references to other horror movies. This one was obviously Carrie, because in Carrie, the mom is also very religious, and she can't do shit, and because sex is the devil's work, you know, and she eventually she picks up her mom with her mind. Let's She flies to the refrigerator, and there's this thing on. It's, I think, a can peeler on the outside of the fridge, and you see the skin going in, bleeding, and then you see it completely going around her neck. Off comes her head. I mean, that's pretty gory, no? For a horror comedy. There's also this one moment when, so everybody's going in separate cars with twos always to this mansion, and there's this one moment. Deborah has also a guy with her, a colleague. Then, like I said, a gay couple. Then you have this American guy, the only American guy in the movie, but he's wearing a fucking toupee, and you wouldn't say that he's wearing a toupee because it's really well done. But at some point, he's standing in the bathroom, and he's like doing, he's correcting his fucking toupee, I said, what? Is that a toupee? I said, well, it's real good quality, methinks. And he has this, his colleague is a little bit, they're, they have a crush on each other, but he has this extremely large mold, like from here to here. It looks like the skin is burnt, you know, charcoal. And he's weird. He's weird. He's also really idle, and yeah, and he's always standing in front of mirrors, checking his fucking toupee, and she's that. Oh, oh, sorry. Yeah, you wait. It's okay, dear. Okay, dear. So she's that kind of woman. Now, Kenny Everett characters, Mandeville and Barbara, they enter this pub and they ask for the house of the dead, and they all stop and they look at him, but it's not because he said house of the dead, but it's because if you remember an American Werewolf in Paris, they say, "Where can we go from here? We It's best to go through the marsh," and everybody looks at them, knowing that it's now really unsafe there, and knowing what their damn well is werewolves. But in this case, the guy, everybody's looking at him because, oh, Barbara says, "Darling," someone guessing they're together. Zip. His fly was open. This sort of, you've got all these. It's not overly funny. There were a few chuckle moments for me. Um, I'm thinking, what was it? The entire bar has this emblem on their hands, this pyramid with an eye in it. And basically, the entire bar are all acolytes from this one guy. He doesn't have a name, the Sinister Man in red robes. They all have, brown robes, and he has red robes. And who is he? Vincent Price. And he says, "We again have intruders in our mansion. We, as lords of Lucifer, have to kill them." So they go back to the house. Basically, what's going to happen is sort of a same scenario, but eventually turns to something different, something pretty interesting. Um, but yeah, I liked the movie. There were a lot of fun times. Not that it left me laughing like crazy. I chuckled a few times, but the thing was, it had a nice balance of horror with gore and comedy, satire, because there's also a moment where Kenny Everett's character starts to choke on something, and he starts to fall on the table. And if you remember Alien with Kane, when the alien is coming out of his chest, the chest burster scene, you see something protruding in his underneath his clothes. So basically, it's just a fart that was stuck in his belly. So things like that. It's fun to see that. Pick out those funny moments that movies they already made. You know what I mean? That's fun. That's fun. Um, Now, I want to spoil the movie, so if you don't want to listen to me, I recommend it. I'm giving it a 5 out of 5. It gets a 5 on IMDb, but for me, it gets a 5.5. That means okay watch. Definitely, I saw this one the second time now. It has a watchability value for me, maybe not for you. But if you like something different, a little bit more comedy with your horror, but still the gore of a horror movie and some creepy elements, then I really suggest watching this movie. So there you go. Now up to spoilers. So the thing is, at some point, these acolytes, this culturized Vincent Price, the sinister man, asks to make a bonfire, but they accidentally put him on fire for some reason. Because for some reason, in the acolytes, you have a blind man in there, and he's in charge of the matchsticks. How fucked up is that? Okay, there he goes, yanking away. He's 700 years old. Now I have to die, and eventually he's complaining. He goes in the ground, and then at some point, all the people that are in the mansion, all those investigators, come out in the red cloaks out of the hole, and you've got the copycats from every investigator in that mansion, and they set all the other acolytes on fire. They go towards the mansion, they get rid of the robes, they just have the clothes on for what the investigators have on, and then the killing starts. So basically, it's not like the beginning of the movie that acolytes bum rush the house. No, in this case, they're sneaking their way in and trying to kill the couples per couples. So let's say the gay couple that I said, they're gonna kill their gay couple, and Mandeville and Barbara will be killed by Mandeville and Barbara, and so on. The first one who gets it is Mandeville. He set on fire with some guy, the eyes or something that, like children of the damned, those eyes, and he set on fire. Then I believe the gay couple, there's the black guy, he goes to the telephone to, he says, maybe call the police, because there is a high rating of, they have these rates, all these apparatuses that says, okay, there's a lot of, paranormal shit in the air, and he says, better call the police. He goes to call the police. Eventually, he gets an arrow through the mouth. So, like I said, it's pretty gory. Then the other one, he's, he's like, massaging his neck, and he's going break the neck. The other guy, the vanity guy, he's in the, like I said, he's in the bathroom, he's checking his toupee, and it's a really, I'm not sure what, it didn't look like he had a toupee, it's so good. And then he starts to see blood coming all out of the toilet, the faucets, the walls, a little bit in the style of The Shining, and he gets basically his head trapped in the toilet. Then his girlfriend comes in just in time to put his toupee back on, and then she says, "Oh, don't you ever leave me again. I love you." And he says, "Even with my mole, even with your mole." And then you see the mole becoming this monster head and eating her. It's ridiculous, but funny at the same time. Funny for shits and giggles. Right? It's not hilarious, but it's fun. Yeah. Basically, at the very end, but there's a nitpick there that I don't understand, because at some point, you also have like I said, the Carrie one, Deborah, who looks like super ugly. She looks like a guy, really a guy, but she isn't. And the weird thing, she goes outside to check on things, and she sees the her mom's clothes, that tower with the cross on, taking out a lightsaber from Star Wars, because 1984 you already had all the no, all the Star Wars movies for part 4, 5, and 6, and she immediately gets decapitated. But okay, but I thought she had, you know, telekinetic powers, but apparently no. After she gets killed, they all come together, but there's still Barbara, the one who got fucked by the ghost. Now she apparently is in the. So you also have Mandeville in the circle, and they're all chanting, and with their insignia on their hands. And then what happens is we see Barbara with Mandeville in the cellar at the same time he's at the circle. So that's something, a little bit of script error, maybe. I don't think there are two Mandevilles. No. There's just one. He eventually is reading shit. Then he sees the Red Road acolytes coming in, their colleagues, and then he does this trick, the hand thing too. He then reveals himself as an acolyte too. But the thing is, he wasn't in there. That was a little bit confusing. That's why it doesn't get any higher than 5.5, because, and also the ending, instead of for me a bleak ending was no problem. Barbara getting possessed and they all go back, because it's a funny movie. So yeah, it's still a horror comedy. So there's, if there would be a sequel, that never came, of course, but it still would have funny moments with the acolytes, right? No, Barbara gets saved by the ghost that has been shagging her, and he wants to shag her at the moment. Sardam, doing a little bit of Austin Powers here, shagadelic baby. He's trying to fuck her, let's say. When all the acolytes are around her and they're seeing he pulls her up, and you see like E.T., the movie E.T. in the moon, when he's on the bike, and in E.T. you see when he's flying with the bike and E.T. in the basket. Now you see Barbara being molested through the moon and going back, and that's how the movie ends. Movie ends basically, they go back to their spaceship, because the acolytes are aliens apparently from another planet, and the ghost is also a part of that, but he misses his ride and he stays there, and that's basically because he was horny. So okay, it's a fun watch. I recommend it. 5.5, definitely. I recommend it. You can. I think it's. I'm not sure, but I think it's free on Daily Motion, and I think it's free on YouTube. Look around. You're gonna get it for free on these legit streaming sites. It's a funny thing to see that kind of satire with that kind of gore at the same time, because it's evenly matched. And normally, if you see a horror comedy movie in that time period, you're not gonna see a drop of blood. You're gonna see dead people, like in certain bodies. You see somebody with a cucumber in his mouth. That's a kill. So, like I said, or with a horse head bookend in her head, or even without the blood. So, like I said, it's this is pretty daring, to say the least. So, Bloodbath at the House of Death, 1984. Watch it. Hit the subscribe button. Gives me more motivation to make fun reviews, and see you later. Bye bye. Alright. I think technical difficulties. Good, good. Ooh. Yeah, apparently it stays, so I'm still here. This movie has me, I'm, for some reason, I cannot get the fuck out of here. So, I'm gonna do something here, something